Thank you very much, Greg, for holding the fort for the last 5 minutes. And thank you to everybody who has jumped on the webinar this afternoon. Good afternoon to you all, and thank you very much for your time. My name is David Grant. I manage the software portfolio here at Academia, including Adobe, amongst many others. I'm excited to be part of this webinar today. It's quite an exciting one. I think it's really good value for our customers. There is no money involved, but lots of good applications and lots of good outcomes. So today's webinar is around looking at the future skills development utilising Adobe's free Spark Premium product. So it should be really exciting, and really off the back of this, I'd like to think that all of you can access Spark free of charge, and today should really help you understand how that can benefit you, your curriculum, your students, and that outcome. So for those who may not be familiar with Academia, as the name suggests, we're an educationally focused reseller. We are the leading resellers of Adobe into education, as well as Apple and some other vendors. But for us, it's far more than just the supply of goods. It is looking to add value. We're particularly strong at integrating technology into curriculum, and hopefully today will be evidence of that as well for you. So in terms of an agenda today, I'll be passing over to Tag in just a moment. And Tag is going to go through learning through creativity and student engagement. Tag is a huge asset to us. He's a great resource. He's a thought leader in this area, and I'm sure you'll be wowed by his presentation, who will then pass on to Greg, who you've been hearing from this morning, who will go into the student engagement side of Adobe Spark before he goes into a bit more of a detailed demo. And again, Greg really knows his stuff here. He is a leader again in many of the applications, and somebody I think that we should really pay attention in terms of the way that the curriculum's going, and certainly the way Adobe and some of these key vendors are driving things as well. So feel free to engage on the chat pod throughout, ask questions. I will pass over to Tag, who will go through learning through creativity and student engagement.
Thanks, Dave. Hi, everybody. My name's Tom Abel Green, really long surname, hence the nickname of Tag, so that makes it a lot easier. Currently, we are just going to take you outside the box before we hand over to Greg, who is much more the person you'll probably want to be speaking to today. But essentially, if we just take around 3 or 4 minutes just to kind of talk around the world that we live in currently. So as I said to you, a little bit outside the box, a little bit of context as to why we do these sorts of webinars. Essentially, what we know is that, we live in a world which we would say is a digital world. We don't really kind of talk about Generation Z and millennials and so on anymore. But what we do know is that currently everyone who is in education from university down essentially has lived in a world where the digital format or technology has formed a huge part of that. So we know that in 1994, the launch of the internet was really where things started changing. And 98, the birth of Google search. And as you can see, there's a bit of a timeline there that talks around some of those kind of milestones, and absolutely we look at, say, 2015, where we know that cloud computing was a huge topic of conversation for the DFE, but actually forms an even bigger part of today. And then we start talking about the skills that students are required for future kind of modern employment. And I joke about Fortnite, but actually the reason that's there is we talk around some of the skills that are being developed that we wouldn't necessarily think of, and actually are key to students' education of today. What we know is from the Future of Jobs report from the World Economic Forum is that actually, preparing students for the modern workplace probably should sit not just within the Ofsted framework, but actually much wider than that, because the skills that are actually being developed in students and those that are being sought after by employers are those that we don't necessarily think of. So things such as critical thinking and analysis. We're looking at creativity and initiative, but also things like problem solving, emotional intelligence. And the reason we talk about those specifically is that what we know is that the world kind of ahead of us is that the type of jobs that are going to be available are going to be very different. Now, what we know is that students in education today, 65% of those are likely to do a job in their lifetime that is not yet available or doesn't exist yet. And these are some of the new roles that we know are coming or are already starting to kind of appear. You've got the obvious ones like app developer, but you've got some of the others that are quite interesting, and things like machine learning engineers, so certainly around the AI market. We've got the automation specialists, we've got artificial intelligence solutions engineers, and all these are roles that are forming huge parts in many large organizations. And so by developing the skill sets of those students, the likelihood is actually it's not about just the numeracy and literacy skills, but actually it's about the creativity, which actually brings us on to why we know that learning through being creative is absolutely a huge win. Standardly, and there's a lot of evidence from a report that came out from Fernandez, Wham and Mead in 2018, suggested that actually by being the creator of your own learning, so the content of your learning, you're likely to tap into the learning patterns that we know are kind of a conversation piece, so through kinesthetic, visual, linguistic. And the reason behind that is that it's tapping all the motor neurons in the brain. And with that, what we know is that actually the learning retention is much higher. So from that, we know that by being the creator of your own content, you're likely to have a much better or much higher retention rate. So through creative retention, about 49.5% uplift. Through the standard current kind of, I guess, Victorian age of the written retention. And what we mean by this is just where students are being talked at rather than kind of the kind of learning and creation that they could possibly have. And with that, what we know is through the cone of learning that is essentially highlighting that after 2 weeks, if you've just read something, you're likely only to ever retain 10-20% of that. And actually, as you hear and see things and you say and practice and write things, you're likely to have anywhere between a 70 and 90% uptake. And that is hugely powerful because by using creative tools, which Greg is going to highlight, actually allows students to show their learning in ways that traditionally have not been available. So with that, Greg, I'd like to hand over to you and go from there.
Excellent. Thank you, Tag. My name's Greg Hodgson. I'm a teacher of old. Been teaching for probably 20 years. I was in the classroom for about 18, and I sort of do consultancy and training now and things like this. So been lucky enough to be working with creative tools, technology tools for a long time, and wanted to really advocate, I think, the people I've spoken to. And by the way, do chat to us if you've got any questions or we're going too fast or whatever. To the group of teachers here that are interested in this kind of, cutting edge technology, which is really about giving students creative options. And I think what we've just heard is that creativity is absolutely key to future success, as is collaboration. So let me jump straight into this and quickly tell you more. I'm an Adobe education leader. I've been working with Adobe very closely. I've just got back from the Max Bash in Los Angeles, where we see all the wonderful new things. I did drop a link in for a new tool, brand new tool called Aero, which is free. And it's a little augmented reality game. Well, not a game, a tool that you can create your own little experiences with. But we're going to look at a few things before we do that. And the first one is that I want to tell you about the edX, the Adobe Education Exchange, which is full of great teaching resources and courses, free courses, which again, I will show you shortly. You need an Adobe ID, which is free, and that will be the same ID that you use when you're creating Spark. And I'm going to kind of run through Spark in just a second. The idea of Spark is that we can make really fantastic learning content very, very quickly, very easily. And it looks really cool. Whether you're a designer or you've got a design brain or an art brain, doesn't matter. This is all of this looks good. And is, it's easy to use. That's the key thing. It's also brilliantly easy for students to use. To be totally honest, and without disrespecting anyone, I've always found that the students pick up the technology a lot quicker than the students pick up the technology a lot quicker than some of the teachers do. So if I can promise, hand on heart, that teachers can use Spark, then most of your students will love it as well. And I think that's, if kids are engaged in learning, if students, young people are engaging in learning, your battle is nearly won. So this is why I think it's such an interesting thing. It's great for flipped classrooms. There's a nice quote there you could read from Tom Heath, a science teacher who's been on one of our online courses on the Adobe Education Exchange. Just a quick question to everybody, just to check that you're listening, and that you're sitting up nice and straight and you've got your listening ears on. Has anyone actually been on an Adobe Education Exchange course? Has anyone ever taken an Adobe Education Exchange course? If, by the way, you're thinking, what's he doing asking me this? There's a chat feature there that you can just let me know. That's a good answer, Lucia. Not yet. Andrew's listening. Excellent. Well done. All right. Well, that's good to know. You will get something definitely that you can take away from this, either for you or your colleagues. The example I'm going to produce is very much based around a flipped learning model. So we know that teachers have very little time. Unless you are in this room and you are a teacher who's got loads of time and you're willing to tell me that. I've never met a teacher. My wife's a teacher, my sister's a teacher, everyone we know are teachers, and no one's got any time. So having tools that make things quickly, easily, and beautifully is very, very important. And the reason I think I want to really focus on Spark Video is that there's a lot of learning content, whatever it is that you teach, whatever subject matter you are dealing with, where creating basic video is actually quite easy. It's not always been easy. It is. I'm going to prove it to you in a minute. I'm going to make a video. And to be able to distribute that, that's the second part. So making video is easy, and then sharing video also easy, as I will show you. And then giving that to the students and then getting them to kind of engage with concepts and principles that you might be talking and learning about. And then, of course, jumping all over that the following day or the following week when you need to kind of start to think about what the problems and issues with the learning are. This is what Spark looks like. It's on your, it's an app, so it's on your phone. It's on, some of it is on Android, all of it is on iOS, but it's also on your desktop. So if you've got access to the internet, you've got access to Spark. That's just an example. It calls Adobe Spark Video a video editor and slide maker. And the Academia team, your microphone's not muted if you're just coming through a little bit.
Sorry.
That's okay. The Spark Video looks like this. There's a timeline at the bottom. There's a few options, not a lot of options, but a few options on the right, and then there's some content in the middle. The important part is that red button in the middle, which you can click, and I'll show you how that works in just a second. And that was the first part about making video. This is the second part about sharing that. You want to share it with parents, colleagues, other students, your class, your year group, your entire school, college, university. It's a one-click wonder. So you click on share, and there it is. That's it. I'll show you how that works in just a second. And then there are fantastic sort of resources like this fine chap here. That's me, by the way, working with the Royal Shakespeare Company a couple of months ago. And if you click on that link at the bottom there, I'll pop that into the chat, and you can have a look at that if that's your thing. Just kind of proof of the pudding. We're working with 8-year-olds. With English was their second language, and they were doing amazing engagement and learning with Spark Video. So it's just a great example. Here's some pictures of them. What I really like about this is the fact that they've got, they're not just using the electronic digital tools. You know, paper and pencils are a really good technology too. And I think in the hands of an 8-year-old, a clever 8-year-old, plus the digital media piece, you've got an amazing set of learning happening. I've mentioned the Adobe edX. I will drop some links in about that, but do go and sign up to that. It's full of fantastic professional development, and as I mentioned, there's a few courses going on at the moment, but there's lots of courses that you can pick and choose from. And it kind of looks like this. So there's some user experience, there's some publishing, there's how to get started, there's some flip learning, which I'm going to go through, even things like simple things like making simple posters or digital storytelling. So lots of different opportunities for you to get involved in some learning there. And that's kind of what I started with. My details are down there, but I'm going to actually, I'm not going to stop sharing this. I'm going to create another pod because we didn't think about this, so I can share my screen. And I'm going to do a quick live demo to show you how this works. So just while I set this up, main display. Hopefully somebody could chat to me and say yes, they can see my screen and Just tell me if you can see me in Spark. In fact, let me start from scratch. I'm just to show you how easy this Adobe Spark. Hopefully somebody is chatting. Lots of people chatting to me. Thank you. You can see it. Fantastic. So look, I just Googled Adobe Spark and I clicked on Spark. And I'm in. Now I've logged in. You can see me up the top right there. I've logged in. So you might need to set up an ID. That's just like a Gmail account or something like that. Very easy. And here's all my projects. And if I scroll through, you can see all the different projects I've been working on. School trip stuff. I even set my football team, my little boy's football team, up on here. But posters, all sorts of things. There are 3 elements to Spark. Let me quickly show you those. Graphics, so I can create posters like these. Web pages, so I can create. Now this isn't a website, this is a web page. Go and have a look at that afterwards. I don't know if I mentioned if this is free. It's all free. And videos, and these are all options that you could go and look at and think, yeah, I'd like to make a video like that. But for the sake of this this quick demonstration, I'm actually going to go up to the top right and start from scratch and choose video. Okay, because I want to create a little video that I'm going to use in a flip learning situation, because I want my students and I want my parents, you know, this is a 3-party, unless you're at university, perhaps the parents probably just paying for it rather than worrying about whether it's working or not. But let's just drag that over a little bit. So I've chosen video. I'm going to just put a title in here, which is The Merchant of Venice, because my imaginary students in my imaginary classroom are learning about the Merchant of Venice. And or whatever it is you teach, you can start already thinking about how this might apply to you. Lots of scaffolding for people who aren't too sure about how to set this up. You might want to teach a lesson, but to be totally honest with you, everyone I know wants to start from scratch. And whenever I put this in the hands of students, and I've taught this to thousands of students, they want to start from scratch because they want to see what this can do. So I will do that the same. Start from scratch. So I'm obviously showing you this on the browser. I'm on Google Chrome. I could be on Safari. I could be on Netscape if that still works. I don't think it does. And here I am now looking at this in Chrome on the desktop, but it could be on my phone. It could be on my iPad. Owen, I can just see, is there anything I've missed? Okay, Owen, we have literally just jumped into Adobe Spark, which is a free app. This is I will go back. I will show you again in a minute. This is Adobe Spark Video. There are 3 Sparks. There's Spark Post for making graphics. There's Spark Page for making web pages, not websites, web pages. It's slightly different. If I get a chance, I'll show you why it's different. But let's concentrate on video. And all I've done is literally, all you've missed is me clicking on Let's Make a Spark Video and start from scratch. Down at the bottom here, I have it's kind of a timeline. I'm just going to press that plus button 3 times because I'm going to do this super quick, and then you'll have to fill in the gaps with your imagination and creative faculty. Because the first sort of slide or section will introduce what I'm doing. The second will start to give us some content about the lesson that I'm going to create. And then the third one will just add on. But you could add a bunch of these. The whole idea of this is that this is short, sharp, easy video. So all I've done is say open. I've hit that plus button, created 3 slides. And when you see I click on slide 1, I'm given these 4 options. And this reduced design and user interface is really the beauty of Spark, because I don't have hundreds of options. Now, if I was in other tools like PowerPoint, because I've been in those classes, I would have students choosing from a million different options and spending 90% of their time thinking about the different options they've got, and 10% of their time thinking about the content and the learning. And this is all about the content and the learning because it does the design for you. So in this one, I'm just going to choose text, for example, and I'm going to call this the Merchant, Merchant, if I could spell, Merchant of Venice. This is just something I'm making up. I'm going to do that. I've got a little bit of control. I will talk about the themes. I can change, I can change color, but there's not hundreds. And if I click on one, it changes the theme. If I click on the other, we'll stick with noir. You get the idea. So there's a few options I've got there. I just zoomed in. Let's go back. So I'm going to quickly record my introduction because this is the video I'm going to send out to my students. Hi students, Mr. Hodgson speaking here. This is my video introducing you to the casket scene of The Merchant of Venice. And all I did there, guys, was hit that orange button. You can see there's a kind of sound wave. I'm going to play it back so you can hear it. It's coming, you know, this sounds really good, but it's coming through my speakers through my microphone, so it's going to sound a bit tinny. But just to prove the pudding, here you go. Hi students, Mr. Hodgson speaking here. This is my video introducing you to the casket scene of The Merchant of Venice. There you go. Whoops, you get the idea. Let's go to slide 2. I'm going to add a photo just to show you how these work. I could upload a photo if I've taken them, just for the sheer speed of this. You can see all the options there. I'm just going to go to free photos. These are all Creative Commons licensed. They're actually safe as well. So if you're working with younger students, younger people, this is a really good thing. I'm just looking at the questions. Lucia, does it have the background music? Ah, the background music. Yeah, the music is here. I can turn it down a bit. I can turn it off. I can bring my own music in. I never tell students about that because they'll spend half an hour trying to figure out how to do that. And then there's a whole bunch of background music that you can choose. So I'm going to go for Afternoon Porch because I've got no idea what that sounds like, and we'll add that and listen to it in a minute. So what was I doing? I was putting a photo in. I'm going to find a free photo of Venice because The Merchant of Venice is in Venice. You can see there's quite a few pictures to choose from, and I'm going to add a little bit more text. Casket scene, and let's just put in, I've got a quote down here. Let's just grab this quote. I don't know if anyone's familiar with this, but I'm just going to pop this quote in. Casket scene. Who chooseth me shall gain what many men desire. So this is a key part of The Merchant of Venice. But again, you can use your imaginations about how you might create some learning resources. So here we go. In The Merchant of Venice, one of the key themes is about choice. I was going to go on then, but I think you get the idea. And I'm going to do one last slide where I'm going to add an icon. This time, I'm actually going to just change the layout. There are 4 layouts to choose from. So I'm going to choose 2 layouts, two icons. So let's choose, just because we're in Venice and it makes things easy, let's just choose one of those. You get the idea. And I'm going to choose another icon, which is a box, which I do happen to know is the nearest thing I'm going to get to a casket, because when I've Googled this before, it doesn't know what a casket is. There you go, and a final recording. But I got that one wrong, which I did on purpose because I couldn't remember what I was saying, but that's what happened. So I'm just going to record over it, just one click. And I got that bit wrong, so 3rd time lucky. Portia's suitors have to choose from a gold, silver, or lead casket. And obviously, if I had loads of time, I would go on and carry on with this, but I'm going to quickly play you my video because that is finished. That's a video made. It's made in probably about, I don't know, 3-4 minutes. Hi students, Mr. Hodgson speaking here. This is my video introducing you to the casket scene of The Merchant of Venice. In The Merchant of Venice, one of the key themes is about choice. Portia's suitors have to choose from a gold, silver, or lead casket. There you go. So there's the video made. I would obviously go on and add a bit more than that because I've just started. It accredits everything for me. This starts a really good digital literacy discussion. So we obviously aren't stealing anything. We're using the internet properly and carefully and considerately. That's a good conversation to have with 15-year-olds. And here's the second part. So I've made my video, but I now want to share it. So I literally click on the share button. I have 2 options, actually. I'd forgotten this. I can invite you in if I've got your email, or my colleague or other students. I can invite them in to start collaborating on that video, or I can publish it. And for this, I want to show you how to publish it. I'm going to choose education as my category, and I'm going to create that link. Now, as you know, this isn't a great piece of video. This is very much a demo video, just showing you how quick and easy it is to go in there and make something that looks quite good. But what's actually happening now is that this is all being squashed together. The sound, the images, the icons, the narration, that whole thing is being pushed together as video. It's being put on an Adobe server. I believe they're either in Frankfurt or Ireland. Dublin. I can't remember exactly where. So they're GDPR compliant. And that will give me in about 3 seconds, hopefully, that'll give me a link that I will share with you. And you can look at that and go, okay, there you go. There's my link to that video. I'm going to copy that. If I'm using Google Classroom or Twitter or anything else, I can socialize or share or embed the code. I'm just going to paste that in here for you, so if you get a chance. So that's my video made, and that's my video shared. If I have a YouTube channel and I want to pop it on YouTube or Vimeo, I'm going to hit that download button. I'm not going to wait this, but I'll get an MP4. And an MP4 is a perfectly internet-friendly way of sharing video. It kind of gives you good sound, good audio, good visuals as well. So there you go. That, if I go back, if I come out of there and I go back, that now is my Merchant of Venice video project that I've just made. It's as simple as that. Any questions before I finish off and hand the ropes back to the Academia team? Anything that I missed that you might want to ask quickly? I just see Lucia's typing. While we're doing that, I'm going to quickly show you this. No, I've already shown you that. This is the Education Exchange. There you go. There's a whole load of courses. Virtual reality just opened on Monday. But there's a whole load of self-paced courses that you can just click on. And if you want to learn about video in your classroom, you can go in there, enroll down the bottom here, and you are off. Here we go. Difference between website and a web page. Oh, yeah, I did mention it. Whoa, sorry, I'm zoomed in there. Let's just go back to actual size. Let me quickly show you what a web page looks like. Web page basically is one page. So developing creative skills. Oh, here's a little training piece that we put together. You'll recognize the picture. So as I scroll up, you can see that I've got text and I've got pictures and I've got different kinds of text and I've got links. And I keep going, and I've got video. And basically, it's just a page. It starts at the top, and it finishes at the bottom. I'm not going to other pages. There's no internal links. This is purely, in fact, I won't share that with you because I'm not 100% sure if it's shareable. But there you go. So let me stop sharing my screen and see if I can
Thank you very much for that, Greg. That was very beneficial for us and hopefully for everybody that's joined us today. Thanks for all of those that have been engaging and participating as well. Likewise, thank you to Tag for your input today. Likewise, much appreciated. For everybody that's on here today and everybody that's registered, we will send you out a link with a recording for this. I'm just going to drop in an email address in the chat as well. So if you have any particular queries, if you need help getting access to Spark or anything else regarding Adobe or anything else really, feel free just to email software at. We'll come back to you. We'll be able to set you up accordingly. For anybody who didn't register themselves, whereby a colleague may have shared this link with you, Owen, I'm conscious I don't seem to have your email address. If you can drop us your email or email software at, we'll make sure a copy of the recording is sent to you accordingly. If there are no more questions, then we'll thank you all for your time and wish you farewell and good luck on your Spark journey. Thanks, Owen. Take care all. Bye-bye.